Are we up? Are we alive? Are we living? Can you see me now? Can you hear me meow? I think we're on. Somebody say hi to me so I know we're good. Sound is good. Thank you, Dave Rush. What a guy. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Meyers here for the Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Ask Mike anything. The goal of this AMA is to give those of us who are isolated by the coronavirus an opportunity to talk about issues as we're trying to pass the CompTIA exams, in particular the IT fundamentals, CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. We can certainly go beyond that, but that's really, that's our lane, as we say here in the States, and that's probably the best area for us, although we can certainly go beyond that as needed. The goal of the way this AMA works is that you guys ask me questions, and then I will do my best to answer them. If the questions are complicated and might need a little more time, you're always welcome to just send me an email. You can send them to either of those email addresses. Although, I got to tell you, that's been causing trouble. I'm going to have to change that because I have to look at 2 different email accounts just to get everybody's questions. And then a lot of times I just leave them on the phone so I can reference the questions and answer them. And now I got to go to 2 different sources. So I'm probably going to change that, but not today. So let's get back to that. So you can use either one of those addresses, and I will be glad to respond to them. If you're a gamer, my Steam account is Senor Pepe. Welcome to join me there. Also, my office number, which is, it's still kind of working, but if you absolutely, fire's burning, you can get a hold of me. You got to go through some screeners and beg. Honestly, if you want to talk to me, just send me an email, and I'll almost always send you my direct cell phone number. And then when in doubt, DesWeds. I'm DesWeds at just about everything. So you guys ask me questions, and then I answer them. So we run till 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time, or until the questions run out, whichever one comes first. So the onus is really on you guys to ask my questions, and then I will do my very, very best to answer them. First of all, I did have a couple of people challenge me on something that I said on Friday about where does the designated prefix come from for an IPv6 network. And they're like, well, Mike, I have seen routers where I type in the designated prefix, and then that's where it comes from. So that's what the first half of your internet address comes from on an IPv6 network. I will agree. That is certainly a way to do it. That is a static, of statically punching in a designated prefix into your actual router, and then it'll start passing out your 2600 or 2002 or whatever it is address. However, that's considered a pretty old-fashioned way to do it now, and kind of contrary to the beauty and joy that is IPv6, and that using DHCP version 6 on the WAN side of your router is the more common way to do that. So I'm going to stand by what I said and demonstrated last Friday, and that's the way it works. Yeah, it's interesting. I used to have guys I could call at local ISPs. Everybody's changing, and nobody's picking up their phone anymore. It's very frustrating these days. And but yes, I am confident about that one, so we'll stick with that. What else do we have question-wise? I got kind of an interesting question I haven't run into for a while. Oh, first of all, if anybody wants those NASA shirts like this one I have on here, it's a little bit tricky to get. There's actually a website called, you ready? NASA Shirts, NASASHIRTS.com. However, it's not always up. It's kind of tricky. So it's public, but NASA really only advertise it for their in-house folks. I mean, anybody can go to it when it's up. Bottom line is I'll start monitoring that through my NASA connections, and whenever it's up, I'll give everybody a heads up so that you can check it out. They also have under its, what is it called? OfficialNASAgear.com. OfficialNASAgear.com. Those are the more generic shirts. So if you just want the big NASA meatball or something like that, that's the way to go. And that's always up and running. That's the regular old website there. All right. So let's get back to some of these questions. Good questions today. Very interesting questions. Let's put it that way. No such thing as a bad question. See, Scott Jernigan even tells me I look good. Thank you, Scott. Oh, hey, before I get any more questions, I got to remind you guys. So, as I've mentioned before, Dave Rush is a big fan of Raspberry Pis. So, this Thursday, so that's going to be June 25th, same bat time, same bat channel, Dave Rush is going to be doing a presentation on Raspberry Pis. Now, in particular, what Dave's going to be teaching about is using Raspberry Pis as a cheap alternative to hardware to use as a learning tool and also as a functional tool. I mean, Raspberry Pis can do some amazing things, and Dave's going to be getting into some of this stuff. You need to set up a quick DHCP server, Raspberry Pi. You want to get a copy of Kali Linux, but you don't want to put it on one of your dedicated systems, Raspberry Pi. And gosh, I don't even know what are we up to now, Dave? Raspberry Pi, are they 4s now? I'm not as big a Raspberry Pi fan of Dave is. But they're still dirt cheap, and you'll end up paying more for your monitor than you will for the Raspberry Pi. It's as a cheap way to do a lot of very cool things, not only as a learning tool for CompTIA certifications, but also as a practical tool for some real world stuff. And Dave's going to be going that in great detail. So that's going to be this Thursday, June 25th. And it's going to be very cool. And I guarantee you I'll at least stick my nose in and just listen in, Dave, and say hello as well. I like Raspberry Pis. I've used them here at the house a few times. I like the I/O interface, but what Dave's going to be showing you is actually just kind of replacing a desktop system with a Raspberry Pi for a lot of different stuff. And I can certainly agree with what Dave's going to be doing. It's going to be very interesting. I'm assuming no one's typed anything in or told me I said that wrong, so I guess I got it right. So remember, this Thursday, June 25th, Dave's going to be online. If you're on my mailing list on LinkedIn, you've already got a notice on that. But for the rest of you guys, it's very, very cool. Especially those of you who are a little tight on money and want a cheap alternative for a great system that can do a lot. It's an absolutely fabulous way to go. The previous plug was given to you by Mike Meyers at Total Seminars. Yeah, so anyway, man, it is like raining like crazy here. It's super dark. I've actually got both lights on, which almost never happens around here. Usually I have that beautiful Texas sunshine coming in. And so we're hydrating. So I've got all the lights on. It's all dark outside. I don't think we're going to have any scary rain coming anytime soon, so we should be okay. And yeah, look, I don't think I've lost enough weight, but I've been working out so much that I'm actually fitting into some old shirts. This is kind of exciting. I'm only down a little over 25 pounds, but it's like my trainer says, it's like I'm building muscle and whatever. You guys don't want to listen to an old man talk about how fat he is. But it's exciting. I get to wear some of the NASA shirts that I was getting a little big for, to say the least. So anyway, let's hit some of the questions I was wanting to cover. Oh, okay. Hey, is Zach Murphy on today? Okay, I'm getting answers to questions I haven't hit yet. Anyway, Zach Murphy, I did a bunch of research on your changing MAC address thing, and honestly, I don't have an answer for you, but I've got some places you might want. Oh, he's not on yet? Okay, I'll wait. Somebody remind me. I've got an answer for Zach Murphy, or at least half an answer to get him going in the right direction. We were talking about data centers on Friday, and people want to go. Yes, go for a CCNA is definitely a way to go. And also with a law enforcement background, I'll tell you, if you have a law enforcement background, the other place I'd seriously consider here in the United States, I'm assuming you're in the States, is take a look at both the Federal Bureau of Investigation hires civilians, lots of civilians, who work as technicians. They're always looking for people. You pretty much almost have to have a college degree, though. They really do look for people with 4-year degrees. There's a few people who can sneak around it. It's usually if they have law enforcement backgrounds. That's right. Here in the United States, you don't need a 4-year degree. Let's not get into that right now. So that is often a place, or military experience. And what's actually fascinating is you can almost come in with very little knowledge, and they are hiring. So just go to fbi.gov, and they have a human resources department, and you can look into that stuff. Make sure that you can pass a pretty aggressive security clearance, though. So no felonies. Heck, probably don't even want anything serious other than maybe a speeding ticket. So that would be one place. DEA does the DEA here in the United States. They do some hiring, but not quite like the FBI. The FBI really has kind of a corner on forensics at the government level here in the United States, and now it's my understanding overseas as well. So you want to look up regional computer forensics laboratories, and they're always looking for good folks. So something you might want to consider. C. Plasman 2009, you're an expert at giving me long ones. This is the one where you're having trouble with closing out a Windows 7 window to progress the Learning Lab to convert a FAT32 volume. What I'm going to do, C. Plasman, is I'm going to forward this. I'm sorry, I just saw this, and this has been here for 3 days. Sorry. I'll go ahead and I'm going to forward that to Scott Jernigan, and he can get that to the right place. Sorry. Okay. Another interesting one. How do I build a custom laptop? You don't. All laptops are proprietary. If you went back maybe 10, 15 years ago, there were some attempts to do some standardization on laptop motherboards and such and cases, and it never really got anywhere. So you can't build a custom laptop, sorry. But what you can do is you can buy certain laptops that have a lot of customization capabilities. Now, you certainly want a laptop where you can add or take away RAM. That's not that hard, though. You want a laptop, people are going to get in arguments with me, but I still like to use, I want a classic 2.5-inch SATA drive on my laptop. So I like, Dell's really good about this, where you can yank them out and plug them in and put in bigger drives relatively easily. It could be an SSD drive, it just has a SATA interface. There are some laptops that have changeable graphics cards, but those are really rare and really weird, and I would be a little uncomfortable with that. But yeah, other than that, there's not much you can change. You can't really build a laptop from scratch like you used to. Now, if you got a broken laptop, getting parts is actually very easy. And what most people do, if you've got a busted laptop, is you can go to the manufacturer and get parts. But to be honest with you, most of the time, you want to find a laptop that isn't working, but the part you need is. And usually the best place for that, at least here in the States, is eBay, because there's just so many people selling old laptops, older laptops. And especially if you need a new screen, if you need a new keyboard, what else goes out on a lot? New power supply, fan for the power supply, where you plug in the AC adapter. There's a name for that little mount. I forget what it's called. It's on the inside of the laptop. That breaks all the time. Most of the time, your cheapest answer is to find a complete laptop. I know it sounds crazy, but especially if it's a few years old, laptops do not hold their price value at all. And even one that's 3 years old is going to be 1/3 the price of what you originally paid for it. So, just something to think about. Well, the problem is people go, well, Mike, I just need this one part. I'm like, well, you're probably going to need another part too if you're that kind of a person. So you might as well get a whole one if it's $100 or whatever it might be. So, but you can also get the individual parts. In fact, you can even get the individual parts on eBay. For smartphones and stuff like that, I tend to go to ifixit.com. for parts there. But I got to tell you, I'm very comfortable fixing any old desktop. I'll fix a monitor. I'll fix a laptop. But I am not comfortable fixing phones. I have tried on more than one occasion. I mean, other than maybe swapping out a battery. But I have failed pretty miserably trying to, for example, to replace a broken screen, which sounds like it ought to be easy, and iFixit provides videos and everything on how to do it, but then they start pulling out their heat guns, which look like big blow dryers, and they're like, here, hit it with, 136 degree centigrade heat, and it's like, I'm just not that clever, and starting to use shims and trying to pry out the... Even I, Mike Meyers, realized that there's a limit to his skills, and most of the time I could get myself, have somebody who does it all day long. I've got, here in Houston, there's probably more than 40 places in the greater Houston area which have good competitive prices on fixing screens, which, come on, let's face it, we've all popped a screen. All right, let's go ahead and start into some questions here. Mailman's looking in at me. Hi. All right, I'm just going to scroll to the top. Andrew Maya. Hi, Mike. Hope you're feeling better. I am feeling better, man. I got to tell you, I feel like $1,000,000. I worked out today. Feeling strong. I'm a happy camper. How long would it take for someone with previous IT experience as a system IT engineer to study for and get both A+ exams done? Honestly, I mean, if you knew your stuff, a month would be the longest probably. We used to do classes. We did it in 2 weeks. That included the weekend. But man, if you know your stuff, really, honestly, don't go buy a lot of stuff. Get practice questions and pound those out. And once you're comfortable with the practice questions, go take the test. C. Plasman 2000, you are here. Sorry, brother. There we go. Yeah, I should have had that question. I just missed it. Who designed the Total Sims interactive workshops? We do. We do all that. Something's beeping. You guys hear that beep? I hope something doesn't blow up. Thank you, Postman. Oh, it's the Postman here in the U.S. They press buttons when they deliver mail. Yeah, we design them ourselves in-house. What tool sets do we use? I'm going to have to ask Scott Jernigan can tell you that. Batman 9002, you got a job. Hey, big round of applause, man. Well done, sir. No, I'm glad you like the Sims, C. Plasman. Holly Jackson, hi Mike, I prefer your materials. In last chat on Friday, I mentioned CertMaster. I'm only doing CM only because it's required in my... Hey Holly, I don't care. You don't have to be using my materials to sit on this AMA, all right? I mean, there's a lot of folks in here I know who come from Jason Dion or Professor Messer. That's fine. I mean, having more than one source for training is great. Yeah, there's no obligation. Use whatever you want to use. Just come on over here. Wow, Tolowit, man, your router got hacked? Sorry about that. That's ugly. You had it set to remote management. Oh. So on a lot of these home routers, you can set it up for remote management. So most home routers, by default, you can only get to that web interface from the LAN side. It's the only way you can get there. But on many home routers, there's a setting that says allow remote management, which allows you to access that web page from the WAN IP address. And ouchie, Tolowit. Yeah, so Dude, I'm going to tell you, you probably turned that router, they turned your router into an ashtray. I mean, unless you can actually log into the open WRT and get into it, or unless, you don't see this on very many routers, but they usually have some kind of recovery mode, but you'd have had to make a backup. I never make backups on home routers. Yeah, so you just replaced it. Good man. Mito, hey Mito. Chris Vincent is in nerd heaven. Thanks, man. We're nerds. That's my best Roman salute. Can we ask our questions here in the YouTube chat? Carter G. Brown. Yeah, man, that's what you're supposed to do. Just type them in. Nigel, do you sell Python books at Total Sims? We do not. Not a programmer. Andrew Huth. Passed my A+ due to a semi-unique search. I am only able to start looking for a job now. Can I send you my resume to get some feedback? Sure, Andrew. I'll take a look at it. I'm not a resume expert, you know. Usually probably the better person to send resumes to is HR type people. But yeah, I'll be glad to look at it, sure. Greg Davis, 4B, okay. Do we train in CEH? This is Sebastian Trusu. Nope, we do not do certified ethical hacker. CEH is a pretty weird group of people, man. They don't like anybody else doing training, and so we don't. Oh, 4B is the type of Raspberry Pi. 8 gig, isn't that crazy? Yeah. Crypto Gil, also surprised like I am, 8 gig. We have Solomon's. Michael Solomon teaches certified ethical hacker, Scott? No. Look at this. We have a product that even I don't know about. I got to look this up. Oh, Scott, I think you're talking about the pen test. So pen test ain't CEH, man. Different animal. Unless you're telling me something I don't know. I'm going to let Scott Jernigan look this up, and he'll type something definitive into the chat. Kushal Rahatkar. Man, I just hate to be such a stupid American, a terrible pronunciation. But thank you very much for the compliments. Terrence Tech, bright and sunny in Rhode Island. C. Plasson, would a Raspberry Pi be a great fun device for a child? It would have to be a pretty technical kid, because they're fiddly, you know. I mean, it's a Network Mage. Hey, Network Mage. Do you know of any place where I can get structured learning courses on power plant systems like SCADA, ICS, and should I get a NERC certified if my main goal is to power plant IT? Man, I don't. Sorry, Network Mage. I am familiar with NERC certification. It is my understanding that for most SCADA guys that's a pretty standard cert. But unfortunately, I don't know that. So it's always funny because I'm seeing your answers to stuff I said, and I'm realizing what if I got like a 5-minute delay on here? I do. In terms of me catching up to where you guys are. Carter G. Brown. So I'm preparing for the A+. I've watched all the videos and taken notes for 1001. Would you suggest I go through the 1002 videos, or should I focus on the book material 1001, take 1001? The old question. For decades, I have always told people, study for both exams, schedule both exams, sit down for one, finish the one, go out, smoke a cigarette, come back and take the second one. But with the 1001, 1002, is the first time in the history of CompTIA that I can say that the questions are so separate that you can successfully study for them. In fact, when we were developing books for the 1001, 1002, I went to McGraw-Hill. I go, let me make 2 books. And McGraw-Hill's like, no, you've been making the all-in-one book This is the Network Plus, but you still get the idea. They're like, that all-in-one book is all you need. And so they wouldn't even let me make 2 books. So we kind of separated them out a little bit. You know, we get some end-of-chapter material to help, and end-of-book material to help you kind of sort it out. So the answer is, go ahead and take the 1001, get that in your pocket, and then take the 1002. C. Plasman, Charles, you're full of questions. Could you go into detail about the workings of a Soho router Wi-Fi device and if a person can build their own? Actually, you probably ought to ask Dave Rush that. Dave, doesn't some of these new Raspberry Pis come out with multiple RJ45 ports? I mean, that's really the only trick, right? And for wired routing, you absolutely could. But I got to tell you, man, Ubiquiti makes some really inexpensive, like sub-$100, very powerful routers. I guess you could, but why? Yeah, anytime you run Linux, by the way, you have routing software built into your system. So you just create routes, and you can do whatever you want. Well, Network Mage, don't let the fact that you don't have a college degree stop you from asking. Things change all the time in this world. And I have met many people, I'm not going to say with the FBI, but I'm not going to say not with the FBI either. So many times people without degrees have applied for jobs that at the top of the thing it said college degree required, and they got jobs. Anyway, because they fit the rest of the criteria. Network Mage, I am not familiar with any NSA hiring stuff. Just it's not on my radar, which says a lot right there. Ciao Salsa, my Portuguese buddy, hello. LBOE, hey man, you're here, that's all that matters. PvP boy, how does a PowerShell script start from downloading to running? I know it comes from the domain, whoa, but does it put in the task scheduler? Okay, PvP boy, you're confusing some things here. How does a PowerShell script start? Well, you get yourself a PowerShell script. Like I go, do you want to know where I go? Like Microsoft websites for their gazillions of. I don't save these. I just every time I need them, I just research for them. Microsoft PowerShell script. Let me type in library. See, I can pull something up. Ooh, it's called Script Center. When did that happen? Hang on. Okay, well here, let me just pull this up so you guys can see it. So I'm going to, that's way too big. So that's the URL that I go to. They're calling it the Script Center these days. And it has thousands, if not tens of thousands of, this is really being pilly. Let's see if I make it a little bit smaller one more time. I had it all blown up from last week. All right, so yeah, on TechNet they have this huge repository of all kinds of different scripts, and I'll just pick one. I read through, I'll do some searching here, what am I looking for? change NTFS permissions. Remote share and NTFS permissions, you know, there's all these different ones. So I'll grab it and then I'll just download the thing. Download it, usually just leave it on my desktop. And to actually run it, you know, it's going to be a PS1 file. So the PS1 file, you should be able to just right click on it and hit run. I usually dump them into one folder. I don't have a, this is just a studio machine, so I don't have a repository in there. If necessary, I can always just open up PowerShell and just, you know, type in the name of the script, including the PS1, hit enter, and it runs. You know, path it if you need to, and that gets it up and running. And then I know it comes from the domain. It's just a file. It can come from the example I gave you, I just downloaded it and ran it on my machine. So it's not so much I run it. I lost you. I had a bunch more people, the usual stuff. Does it come from the domain? Now, you have what are called startup scripts, which are not as common as they used to be, but you can install a startup script, which would run on every system at startup. You could do that. And that could be a PS1 file. It could be a batch file. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a Python file. Doesn't matter. And now you're saying, but does it put it in the task scheduler or separate system? So the only thing a task scheduler does is schedules when tasks are done. Like, for example, you could set up a task scheduler to run a PS1 file every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. That would be different than a startup file. It could be from the domain. Boy, it's been a while since I've done that. You can set up groups, and you set up a, oh my gosh, I've forgotten what it's called. Security control? What's it called? Security control? Yeah. I could set up a file to be run on all the systems in the domain, certain systems, you know, however you want to configure that. That's done on the domain controller traditionally. I probably wouldn't use a task scheduler. So PvP boy, I'm worried you're confusing a couple of things. So hopefully what I just said can help me get you to a place where we can answer it better. Code is simple. What certs do you recommend for a person planning to become an ethical hacker? I'm not sure what that means to be an ethical hacker. I mean, are you talking about vulnerability testing, in-house vulnerability testing, stuff like that? And again, I don't know where you start. You know, A+, Net+, Security Plus is just kind of like core competencies. I don't want you to one day be this great nerd and you don't know how to plug in a monitor or update Windows or know what that means. That's why A+ is there. Network Plus is the most important core networking course you could possibly ever have. At least it gives you the best core understanding of networking. And Security Plus, CompTIA Security Plus is great in that it gives people a introduction to what IT security means. But from there, you might want to take a look at Certified Ethical Hacker. I mean, it's a well-respected cert. Oh, Father's Day, yep. AliExpress in Europe, huh? That's cool. Nigel, I forgot to do that. I did say I was going to give that network Chuck guy a holler, and I forgot. I'm going to put myself down some notation. We'll see what he's up to. Just have him drop in and say hello. Maybe we'll get him in on a Zoom meeting or something. Maybe he'll say no. Andrew Hutz, Mike, with Apple's announcement they are switching to their own ARM processors Is this a sign that Intel's in actual trouble? No. Yeah, remember, it was 15 years ago, Apple's ran on PowerPC chips. Then they switched to Intel, and now they're switching to these ARMs. Between that and Ryzen, it seems that Intel is falling behind. Well, I think you need to watch what's coming up here in the not-too-distant future from Intel. And ask me that question again in 6 months. Look, these processors have always been in a horse race. It's been this way for over 20 years. You know, AMD was ahead for a while. Intel was ahead for a long time. And honestly, it wasn't until the Ryzens came out that AMD started to get ahead again. It had been Intel forever. So, yeah, da-da-da-da. Hi, Mike. Where do you source your practice questions? From the powers of my mind. All of our practice questions are written in-house. I write them, Dave writes them, Scott writes them, a couple other in-house people, but all of our questions are written in-house, original practice questions. We don't source them from anybody. We're the source. Yeah, Chris Vincent, real-life troubleshooting. Yeah, that's always. In fact, that almost terrifies me about this doing AMAs because it's always like, oh. Guitar Madness, can you please clarify the difference between incremental and differential backup? Sure. So Guitar Madness, do you know what an attribute is? Yep, that was a mistake. Hold on. Okay, let me bring this up so you guys can see it. Where's everything going? Oh. Okay, so if you take a look at the screen right here, you'll see that I've typed in the command attrib. And when I type in attrib, it shows me these are some files that I have on the root directory of my system. So let's go someplace different. That's even a little more boring. Okay, but anyway, you can see these little letters appearing. Those are attributes. An attribute is just a bit that you set on or off on a system, on an individual file. In fact, like if you set a particular file to the attributed directory, it's really just a folder. It's structurally a little different. So anyway, these attributes, which have been around since like forever, they were part of the original disk operating system. They have, like they're hidden. If you want to hide a file, you set the attribute to hidden. They have system files, which are really, really hard to delete using regular deletion. Thank goodness. It's a very good thing that we have that. What are we thinking of? System hidden. I'm going blank. Anyway, one of those attributes, let's look one more time, okay? So you'll see that all of these have the letter A. That stands for archive. The only thing that changes that attribute, turns it on or off, is if you create a new file, it has the archive bit set, you see the A. If you change a file in any way, the archive bit is set to A. What else? Yeah, those are the two biggies right there. So if you create a new file or if you change it, then that's turned on, okay? Otherwise, it's ignored. So the only thing that really pays much attention to the archive bit are backup software. And that's really the big difference between an incremental and a differential backup is that how they deal with that archive bit. So usually with the backup software, once you've gone ahead and backed something up and put it to tape or another hard drive or up the cloud or whatever it is, you turn that, well you don't, but the backup software turns that bit off, okay? Now I want you to think about this. So let's say on a Sunday we do a whole backup of a system. We back the whole thing up. Once you do a full backup, all the archive bits are turned off, all of them. Got it? Okay. Now, that's done once a week, this full backup. So what you want to do is you want to make backups, but you don't want to be doing full backups all the time because full backups take forever. So you've got two choices. You can do an incremental or you can do a differential. And with a differential backup, what happens is let's say Monday you do a backup. Now keep in mind, between Sunday when you did a full backup and now this Monday when you're doing a differential backup, people have been working on files. Maybe they've made new files, suddenly archive bits appear. They've modified files, suddenly archive bits appear. Get it? So when you do a differential backup, what you do is you back up only the files that have the archive bit set. Got it? Now, here's the thing though. When you do a differential backup, you do not turn off the archive bit. Remember when we did the full backup, all the archive bits were turned off? With a differential, you don't turn it off. So you tape that tape backup or that hard drive or whatever you have. And then when Tuesday comes along, you take the same tape or the same hard drive or whatever it is, you plug it into the system, it runs another differential backup. So now when it runs a differential backup, there's going to be a few more files that have the archive bit set, right? So you just put it on the same tape. You just keep adding. So you've got your big full backup that you did on Sunday, and you got this differential backup that just keeps getting bigger and bigger over the course of the week. With an incremental backup, it's a little different. So we'll do that big full backup on Sundays. And remember, all the archive bits are turned off. With an incremental backup, all it does is you take one tape and you back it up, and it turns off the archive bit. Okay? But the only thing it backs up are the files with the archive bit set. Got it? So if they're all backed up and then it turns it off, now you have one little backup, but that's only for changes that took place on Monday. Set that to the side. Tuesday comes along, grab a new tape, grab a new hard drive, or a lot of times these backups are so small and they just manifest as a file. You can put more than one on a single backup media. So Tuesdays come along, you do an incremental, and then what it's going to do is it's just going to back up whatever you did on Tuesday, because that's the only thing that'll have archive bits set, right? Because you did that one on Monday and turned off all the archive bits again. So Tuesday comes along, and then that's a separate tape, put that to the side. Get the idea? So incremental, in an incremental backup, it will only back up the stuff with an archive bit set, but then it turns off the archive bit. In a differential backup, it only backups the stuff with the archive bit set, but it leaves the archive bit on. These are two very different ways. Nobody will say one's better than the other. With a differential backup, you only have two backup sets, right? You have the full backup you did on Sunday, and you use the same backup, which grows and grows through the week. With an incremental backup, you have lots of little tapes or hard drives or backup, whatever you want, and you're just going to use more little backup media, but they're going to be storing a lot less. So a lot of times the reason people pick one versus the other is how big of storage capacity their backup media is. So there you go. CompTIA definitely asked questions on that. So good question. Where am I? So Guitar Madness, I hope that answered your question. MH, love your Security Plus Udemy class. Thank you, sir. Network Mage, dude, you're on a roll. And always welcome to ask all the questions you want. What is the best tool to detect potential toolkit malware compromises on a PC? What is the best tool? I'm not sure what you mean by toolkit. Do you mean rootkit? Man, just about, I guess Malwarebytes would probably be my first test on that. Yeah. So Malwarebytes actually has, I guess that doesn't make that much big of a surprise. It has a separate anti-rootkit tool that does not seem to be part of the regular Malwarebytes. Ooh, Dave Rush saying 30, 30, 30. I hope Tolowit knows what that means. Hi, Mike. What do you think of Cloud Plus? I like it. I like it. The problem is that right now, all the different cloud providers have their own certifications, and at least with AWS, their basic cert is pretty basic. You know, one of the reasons Security Plus became popular is because all these other, you know, ISC squared, GIAC, ISACA, EC Council, all these different groups had their own certification path, and all of those were pretty aggressive. Did you guys hear that thunder? And Security Plus kind of made a niche for itself by becoming a very entry-level type of certification. When the cloud providers started to provide certification, I can't say all because I can't guarantee all of them do, would provide a kind of an entry-level cert that did a pretty good job. So I'm not hearing the noise on Cloud Plus as an entry level to the cloud that we hear about Security Plus being entry level to security. So. And do we have a course on it? Oh God, Scott, do we have a course? Please tell me. Is that Michael Solomon's course we were mentioning earlier? Scott Jernigan will type it in. What is pen testing? All right. This is who asked? LBOE. All right, so real quick. As a security person, let's just say you know everything there is about locking down routers, individual systems, switches, VPN edge boxes, anything. And you just have that power in your head. So what you do as a part of IT security is you talk about your infrastructure, okay? And the infrastructure can be almost looked like, kind of like as a shell. And what you do is you don't just run around, oh, we got hacked, I'm going to fix the router. Oh, somebody installed malware, I'm going to run anti. You don't just react to stuff, right? You prepare this stuff ahead of time in what are called security controls. Security controls are not things, they're just verbs. We will require complicated passwords for all routers. We will use 802.11ac wave 2. You get the idea? We will require 802.11 radius AAA for authentication. So a security control is just a rule, okay? And then you have procedures on how you actually do that stuff. Anyway, the bottom line is that you don't want to wait. You spend all this time and money applying all these security controls to your infrastructure. You hire guards and you install ion cannons. Okay, I'm kidding about that one. But so you go through all this rigmarole. It's really thundering. Man, if I go out, folks, we're going to quit early today. That was like crack. All right. So you install all these security controls, and now you want to make sure they work. So you start off usually with in-house folks who they do vulnerability testing or vulnerability assessment. And these are in-house people where you're testing stuff. Just because they're in-house, it doesn't mean they can't go outside of your infrastructure and try to poke in. Get the idea? And so they go through these vulnerability assessments and they look for vulnerabilities. And if they find them, then they patch them and they fix them and do whatever they got to do. Once you do a vulnerability assessment, if you're really paranoid, and this is done a lot less often than you think, then you hire somebody from the outside to do what's called penetration testing. The only real difference between a vulnerability assessment and a penetration testing is where do your people come from? Because people who are doing vulnerability assessments, they have passwords and stuff like that, right? They know exactly where the web servers are. They know what internal NAT addresses are, stuff like that. So the benefit to having outside pen testers, and again, they're using the same tools, okay? It's not like they're using some secret thing. And then they actually attempt to break into your web browser or, grab the usernames off your domain controller or whatever. You usually tell them what you're looking for. And, you pay them. And they come in. And then they have certain criteria. They're like, if we know a password. Because a lot of times, what if it's a disgruntled employee who still has a username and a password? You want to see what they can do with that stuff like that. So does that make sense? So pen testing is done by third-party people from the outside. Vulnerability assessment, which is the same thing, using the same tools, is done with in-house people. Kevin Lopez, is an entry-level help desk job stressful? Depends on the company. They can be stressful. Usually I think what drives people crazy is the stress isn't like, oh, I'm unable to help you, because most of the time for entry-level jobs at a help desk, you're using knowledgeware. It just tells you what to ask. Come on, you guys have been online with help. You know how that, you can tell this person's doing something rehearsed. So, so the actual problem itself, usually the stressful part is dealing with irate customers or idiot customers. God bless them. And so that can be where the real challenge is. And because it's usually entry-level, help desk tends to be entry-level, you tend to get a younger, crazier crowd in there, and, so it can be stressful, yes. Afka Patel, taking the A+ next Thursday. Which practice exams do you suggest, and how many questions are enough? There's no such thing as enough practice questions. Our A+ test bank is 900? No, it's over 1,000 questions, separate questions. A lot of times, though, we'll take a question and say it twice because it's an important question. So it's, 4 minus 2 equals what? 2 plus 2 equals what? And we're saying the same question different ways because we want you to know that stuff. Where do you get them? You get them here. And by the way, Mr. Patel, since you were kind enough to mention that, we are offering 50% off on all of our practice questions today. So, is there a code? Scott's going to tell it. So all you got to do is go to www.totalsim.com, head over to our web store, and pick up some A+ practice questions if that's what you're studying for. And then as you sign out, you will use some code. And Scott Jernigan, my buddy, is going to type that code in there right now on the live chat, and he will tell you what that is, and you get half off. So it's an incredibly inexpensive deal for what I consider the best practice questions out there. Okay, so special deals this week. Thank you, Scott. 50% off total seminars, A+, Net+, Security Plus Super Bundles. That's videos, our total simulations, the simulation questions, and the total tester, which is the practice questions. That's 50% off. If you just want practice questions, we also do that. So you just buy just the practice questions and use code MMLive626, MMLive626 at checkout, and you get 50% off. So good deal. Mark M., you've completed the CYSA. There is a new version. We are aware of that, Mark, and we were getting ready to put it together, and we were bringing in subject matter experts and the whole shebang, and coronavirus has derailed us. So we are, the moment we can get somebody to jump on an airplane and sit in the studio, I'm here at home, okay? And we will light Total Seminars back up and get that out. But right now, Mark M., there is a pretty big delay. I also am hearing rumors, I can't have any basis of fact, that CompTIA is staggering opening up a lot of new tests or preventing the delay of older tests because of the coronavirus. You'd have to double check at www.comptia.org to see what CompTIA is doing on that. Because I just heard that was a rumor, but it came from a really good source. Andrew Hutz, what would you say are the most dangerous and most common adversarial threat actors in 2020? Most dangerous. Most common's easy. Malware is worse now than it's ever been. It just comes in so many different sources. Email, it comes in through texting now. It comes in a lot of different ways. And it's a problem. But it's always been a problem. And the right answer is, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of sexiness to it, is, putting in anti-malware. I mean, here in the United States, the Best Buy's Geek Squad, which was making money hand over fist last I heard, I was talking to some of the Geek Squad guys. I'm like, what do you do all day? And they all look at me, yeah, we run and install anti-malware. That's it. That's all they do. Every now and then they get something a little bit more interesting. But so I would say it is the most dangerous because of all the threats that we have out there. It goes against the lowest common denominator, regular users, and installing botnets and stuff like that. It can be a real big problem. Mito, I'm practicing with CompTIA A+ app test and crucial exams. Is it enough? Mito, the only thing I can guarantee that is enough is my practice exams. I'm not trying to get a bunch of money off you. I am aware of my competitors out there. When you say, I'm practicing with the CompTIA A+ app test, I don't even know what that is. Who makes that? Are you saying that CompTIA... CompTIA pulling out an app now? CompTIA. Let's just type in CompTIA. CompTIA. Oh God, there's zillions of these. So, I just got on the Google Store here on my Android. And I'm seeing about, 50 different ones. I don't know any of them. So Mito, I don't know who you're, I can't verify. And I'm reticent to recommend a competitor. Does that make sense? Could you explain how to set up a home Wi-Fi so it doesn't get hacked? Sure. Don't turn on remote administration. Yeah, sorry, man. I guess somebody should have told you that before you got smoked, huh? Honestly, if people did two things, it would make it really hard to hack them. Number one, don't turn on remote administration. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Now you tell me. And then number two, change the default router passwords to something complicated. Like for me with passwords, if your password's only 8 letters long, you're in trouble. I don't care if you use BAMs and WACs and numbers and all that, because most of the time, most people have passwords based on real names. All right, so here in the United States, it's going to be based on an English name, like Timothy or, Wonder Woman or stuff like that. And people who are hacking know that. And they will use that against you. And the rainbow tables out there now are very sophisticated. And any 8-digit, I don't care how complicated it is going to get cracked. Any 10-digit will probably get cracked if they're interested in you. So if you really want to make good passwords, what you do is you create sentences. You don't have to have numbers and WACs. Just make long passwords. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Vidi, vidi, vici. Don't do that because 1,000 people do those, okay? But come up with, something that's unique. Then you can use real English words, but what they call the entropy, which is the amount of complexity, the longer a password gets, it becomes much, much harder for a bad guy to crack it, because the bad guys' rainbow tables assume complexity. Does that make sense? And the rainbow tables that I've been messing with, well, at least in the last 3 years, once you get past 12 characters or so, unless you're running on a supercomputer or something that can really deal with it, it becomes very hard to crack. That goes for your wireless passwords too, by the way. Trisha, in the A+, I keep getting mixed up with IaaS and PaaS from the phrasings. Is there a simple way to not confuse them? Okay. Sure. Here's a really easy way to separate them, in my brain at least. When you do infrastructure as a service, you will be defining things that you would never define under platform. For example, you get on AWS, you get on S3 and you want to set up a web server, for example. You have to answer questions like, what kind of CPU do you want? What kind of operating system do you want? What kind of web server software do you want? How much storage do we have to have on this system? Because you're literally building a VM. I mean, think about the questions that you would get as you were setting up a virtual machine, because that's really what you're doing. Remember, a cloud system is nothing more than a virtual machine that's far away. So with IaaS, it's going to be asking you very technically hardware type questions. With platform as a service, it's going to not ask those types of questions. In fact, platform as a service is slightly terrifying in how few questions it asks. So that would be the big difference to me. With platform as a service, what you're doing is you've got coders who are writing their software and they're like, make me a box. And it doesn't hardly answer any questions for you. And you just load your web app up there and it runs. Get it? Very different. Like with the famous PaaS tool Heroku, it basically, like if you need more power, it doesn't ask you to add CPUs or RAM or anything. It's just got this stupid like dial analogy where it's like, turn this up to spend more money. I'm not kidding. They completely abstract the concept of the actual virtual machines, the cloud-based virtual machines, from the person who uses them. How does that? Does that help? I hope that helps. Carter Brown, I know you asked, did Scott Jernigan answer you? I can't tell. No, Carter Brown, they do it a little bit differently over there, and I would really recommend that you get our practice questions. Where'd you go? God, this scroller just drives me crazy. Nigel, Malwarebytes is rubbish. Okay, everybody. Nigel just said, or he probably said a few minutes ago, that Malwarebytes is rubbish. Oh, my friend, you're about to get a lot of people to disagree with you. All right, I've completely lost my place. Hey, Dr. Quinn. You guys seem to have some conversations going on yourself. I'm not going to get in the way of that. B. Rush, not to be confused with D. Rush, David Rush. Question, I did some research on IEEE and its standards not too long ago. There are PDFs of these standards being sold for $1,000. Do you know the PO? Yeah, IEEE's always charged a lot of money for their printed standards, but you don't need them. What I'd recommend is just buy very inexpensive, great training material that tells you everything you need to know. Oh, what is that? There's a company. God, I've been using them for decades. What is the Riley? I'm McGraw-Hill here. Riley has all of these, the ones with the animals on them that usually do really great jobs of going into detail. Do I have any on me? Usually I keep those upstairs. Yep. No. Man, these were great books. These old Mindshare books. I'm sorry that those aren't around anymore. Ah, come on, Mike. Really? Yeah, they're all upstairs. But anyway, so if you're looking for a lot of details on IEEE specs, in particular, you're probably talking about 802.11 because they come out so much. Riley, or is it Wiley? I forgot. The books with the animals all over it are great. Network Mage. McCafferty has cybersecurities. I don't know who McCafferty is. I'm sorry, brother. Oh, here we B Rush. Is it just a knowledge thing? Yeah, it's just a knowledge thing. McAfee. McAfee has certs? Good for them. The fact that I don't even know they exist says something, though. I don't know why it is. I get on these stupid AMAs and my nose starts to itch like crazy. Oh. Hey, Spewy. Cat's like, screw you, man. Rockman 4140. Hey, Mike, any tools that you would consider must-haves in your kit? Specific brands and items would be appreciated. A number 2 Phillips screwdriver will take you a long way in this industry. I get a PC power supply tester, are pretty handy. See if and there isn't any particular brand. All this Bing searching is just making me laugh. There. So these little power supply testers are absolutely fantastic. Power supplies go out all the time, and I keep one of these around a lot. Oops. What else do I have? I also use iFixit, especially if you're working on a lot of laptops. I actually don't work on phones very much, but even with that, because what I do with laptops, I like them. So they've got a bunch of different kits. And I tend to go with, so let's take a look at this one right here. Whoops. So they have these different kind of little kits. These are just the nut driver kits. And to be honest with you, they're about all I need. You can see I got a bunch of Torx wrenches in there, which are handy. It's got Phillips in there, little nut drivers. I can never remember the names of some of these crazy ones. There, for you Canadians, it's got those, what do you guys call those, Fergusons or something starts with an F. Those are pretty handy. But in terms of physical testing tools, that's about all I get. You know, software-wise, it's usually no. I don't want to get started on that. Do a Google search on Mike's Cool Tools, and it'll show you a list of the software that I use, which usually sits on a thumb drive. Yeah, make sure you have a thumb drive. Removable optical media. Yeah, I still don't have one. My old one is dead. I need to get a new one. But that would be, yeah, Rockman 4140. The most important tool you bring is this, honestly. I pull out hardware tools 5% of the time I'm working on computers. I'd be more interested in having a bootable thumb drive with Windows on it, so you could do a Windows recovery. And I'd have another bootable drive that boots into some kind of live CD, I don't care what it boots into, that has an anti-malware suite on it. Those would be the two biggies. Daniel Tinsley, any chance you could explain volume shadow copies? Volume shadow copies with respect to Windows OS. No, I can't, because I know Windows is doing something scary with them right now. Oh, man. You know what? Let me put there. Contact Network Chuck. Volume shadow copy. Wednesday, I'll be your date on volume shadow copy. I need to check a few things because I don't want to be a liar to you. It's really all it boils down to. Nigel, Mike, how good is your Net Plus book? It's frickin' fantastic. It is good. In fact, it's my favorite book. Of all the books I've written, the Net Plus book is my favorite because it really gets that ooh-ah factor going. So many people, a lot of times before people have studied networking, they know what an IP address kind of looks like. They've heard the word DHCP, and I feel that my book really just puts it all together for you. So I'd say it's absolutely fantastic. Is it good for someone studying for CCNA? I think so. As a starter, you got to keep in mind, CCNA really concentrates on looking at systems, switches, and routers through the iOS operating system. The other thing is that Cisco has a lot of its own nomenclature, its own icons, a lot of its own stuff. So I would not be comfortable telling you use a Network Plus book for the CCNA. I would be comfortable saying take Network Plus before you take your CCNA so you don't turn into a complete Cisco Hare Krishna and lose understanding. I really do like Network Plus. And it does help with subnetting. Network Mage. Hi, are the practice exams for Security Plus on your website the same as the ones on the CD in your Passport Security book? Basically the same. Well, I think so. Some of those Passport books, the practice questions were written by McGraw-Hill folks. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Matt Orton, what sort of malware removal antivirus software do you recommend? Oh man, I'm all over the place. Number one, I'm going to go with, for anti-malware, just assuming Windows systems, I'm just go with the built-in anti-malware tools that come with Windows. I found those to be very good tools for defense. I do like Malwarebytes, despite what another gentleman said he didn't like it. I've had great success with it and continue to have great success. The trick is, more than anything else, it's not so much which tool you use. I don't like a lot of the commercial tools, and I'm willing to pay money for anti-malware. Okay, I am. The problem I have is that almost all the anti-malware, the stuff that sits on your computer all the time, this has been a problem for 15 years, and you'd think people would start learning to reduce the footprint of these tools, and it's just awful. Just awful in terms of how much they use. What else have I been using here? Actually, I'm going to make me look. Yeah, we had, about 3 weeks ago, we had a big thing on anti-malware, and we ran a ton of anti-malware, and Malwarebytes came out the winner. So McAfee wasn't bad. My brain's going blank. I just don't get hit with malware that much anymore. Scrolling through. I actually even deleted a few already. Where did they go? I can't even find Malwarebytes on here. I think I uninstalled that too. Anyway, the bottom line is most of these more aggressive anti-malware programs, when I get hit with it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a thumb drive on an uninfected machine and I'm going to make a bootable drive. The problem is they don't have any shelf life, right? So I make a bootable drive, then I boot the infected system, run off the bootable drive on a live CD, clean the infected system, yank it out, and then reboot. But the reason I don't keep them around is because these things have to be updated all the time, and then it's just a hassle. So unless I'm actually cleaning malware all the time, every time I run into a problem, I just make a new one. And I'm always playing with one or the other. Most of the time when I get hit with anti-malware, when I get hit with malware, which for me is maybe once a year anymore, maybe twice a year, I'm very careful about what I do out there. If I get hit, this is usually, I'm asking the same question, Matt. I'm like, oh, what's hot this week? Karan's saying, hey, Mike, my laptop screen keeps going black. Like it turns off and turns back on again. Is it rebooting? Or is it actually just turning on and off? First thing I would do if I saw something like that, I would hope that that laptop has a secondary monitor port I could plug in and verify that it's always running on one system. If it goes black on the other one as well, I'd be very nervous about my drivers on that, which can often be a problem with laptops. People don't update those nearly enough. If it's only going off on that one system, and like I can even extend onto the black system and it keeps working, you can just move, even though that screen's black on the secondary system, you can move the mouse and you can push it over and you don't see it, but then you bring it right back. So now that's a different story. That's telling me that I've got a problem with the actual monitor itself. If I've got a bad monitor on a laptop, the first question I'm going to ask myself is, can I get a replacement screen cheaply? If the laptop is more than 3 years old, the answer is you can almost certainly get a screen, but it's going to be junk. This is a big challenge with these types of screens because, I got this old 3-year-old and you go on to eBay or Amazon or something like that and you can find, here it is, and there's a lot of people will sell these screens. But is the screen any good is always the question. If you can buy just the screen itself, and you can, usually the screens are going to be less than $100 depending on the laptop. Sometimes they're only like $30. And fantastic. So you can go ahead and get that thing because you've got a short in your screen someplace. Replacing screens is a bear on any laptop. It's always a big job. And it's going to require a lot of unscrewing. You're going to be peeling off tape. You're going to be dealing with stuff. You've got a big antenna that sits in the monitor. All laptops, the wireless antennas in the monitor. And just be ready for a very, very big job with about a 20% chance of absolute failure. So if you're willing to take that on, you could replace it. Honestly, most of the time, if I have a laptop, well, number one, when I buy laptops, I buy 3-year warranties across the board. Every time I buy a laptop, I buy a 3-year warranty. Always. Because I don't want to jack with that thing for 3 years. And it's almost always pays for itself. And, if I'm 32 months into it and nothing's wrong, oh, maybe something suddenly happened. Oops, interpret that as you will. And if it gets past that, then it gets tricky. I probably replace a monitor screen once every 2 years or so. I have a lot of laptops laying around, and some of them are worth it, some just aren't worth it. So, but if you go through that testing procedure and you're still getting it, I blame that there's some kind of short or something in there, and you're going to have to replace it. There you go. You've got some more Karen, other people chiming in. Network Mage, my Windows Defender found Trojans that Malwarebytes missed. Network Mage, you will never find one piece of anti-malware that finds everything. It doesn't exist. And I guarantee you that Windows Defender would find stuff that Malwarebytes would find stuff that Windows Defender misses. So now you really, for like people who clean malware all day long, remember that thumb drive I was talking about? They usually keep 2 or 3 different types of anti-malware on there. Actually, another place to look is going to the forums on Malwarebytes. Even if you don't like Malwarebytes, in those forums, they talk about this stuff all the time. And these are guys who just constantly are dealing with malware. They'd probably be a pretty good source for that. Where's he up to on the chat? Nigel, I'm right there, brother. So the other thing, Nigel, that would worry me about this is that, I'm sorry, Karan, It's if it goes off and on like that every it's always about 3 seconds. Man, that sounds like a driver. I would be big time updating all the driver stuff. Network Mage, what if remote admin is only set over HTTPS port 443? Well, you can ask CPlasman 2009 what his opinion on that. I'd never use remote admin on any router ever. Never. I never use it. Speaking of Geek Squad, do you think it's a good place for someone new in IT to start out? Yeah, it's not bad. It's certainly a respected thing to put on your CV. They will work your butt off. You got to be dealing with a lot of people. But it is, it's very good experience. Rockman 140, XKD is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful one. Comic on passwords. Network Mage. You eat whatever gets you through the day, brother. Nigel, you are absolutely entitled to your opinion, my friend. Always. Did Spewy actually show up on camera, Scott? CPlasman 2009. What was that postcode display? Oh, an old... hang on. Yeah, imagine how easy... so it's called a Power on Self-Test card. I'm becoming less a fan of those all the time. 20 years ago, they were absolutely required. Should type things in right. Okay, here's just one example. Let me pull this up for you. So this is one example of a lot of these things called postcards. Power on self-test card. Really, obviously, if it's not PCI, you're in trouble. PCIe. And what it does is it shows a little display showing you, usually it's like voltage and then a 2-digit hexadecimal code. The only time you use a postcard is when a system is acting dead and you don't think it's dead. If I run a system and I get postcode and I shove in a postcard and nothing lights up, the motherboard's dead. You've probably got a bunch of dead capacitors, you've smoked a CPU, whatever it is now cheaper to replace the motherboard than to do anything else. But postcards have been around forever. I still have an old ISA postcard. You'll still see some high-end motherboards that will have a postcard built into the motherboard. It's a fad. It shows up, it doesn't show up. But the only time postcards do you any good is when you have a system that's acting dead. You can't get anything to show up on a screen. Remember, the first step in a power on self-test on any computer is where the CPU basically tests itself. It tests the RAM. It tests a couple of critical chips. And then it tries to check, then it starts talking to the video. So in that time period, before the monitor or even the beep codes come up, there is a little initial part where a postcard can be handy. The trick to a postcard is if you pay more than $70 for a postcard, you're being robbed. There are a lot of people out there who sell postcards for like $300, $400. That's ridiculous. They're not that expensive. But I use them so rarely that I'm not going to say no to them yet, but they do exist. They're out there. Don't forget your ESD strap. You know when I use an ESD strap? When I'm making videos about ESD. And remember, it's not ESD anymore. Now it's, what's the proper term? When a nuclear weapon hits and goes boom, we get EMP. So ESD is just one form of electromagnetic pulse. I don't invent this stuff, folks. Next, phase 2. Mike, do you think that software-defined networking will become more popular or the norm? On anything outside of Soho, it's going to become the norm. Probably already has. I mean, we use SDN at Total Seminars, and we're a Soho box house. Robert R. Does the network exam have lots of simulations, more than A+? No, about the same. 3, maybe 4. C. Plasman 2000. How do you make a bootable drive? Really? Okay, fair question. All right. So, Scott, help me. What is the little tool that we always use to make bootable ISOs? I'm all caught up. You can actually, no, I'm not all the way caught up. So a bootable drive it's going to boot into usually like Windows or something like that. Man, how? It's built into, it took me to a Rufus. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is C++ and download a tool called Rufus. I'll bring it up for you. There you go. Get a copy of Rufus. Rufus.ie, all right? And what Rufus does for you is it allows you to take ISO images and make bootable devices out of it. So it'll read a bootable ISO. So you go get a copy of Ubuntu ISO or whatever operating system you want, okay? And then Rufus will then, you tell it where the ISO is, then you tell Rufus where your thumb drive is, and it just makes it. Poof, that's one way to do it. There is a way built into Windows to make a repair drive. Create. Okay, I'm not sure. I think I can get this to come up. If you want to do it simpler, you can do this. This only works in Windows. This was create a recovery drive. You can even put backup stuff on there. So that's another way to do it. It really just depends on, what you're talking about. So for anti-malware, you're probably going to do it this way. There's also, there's so many different ways to do it. It was a guy's name. Hang on. You guys are making me do web browsing for you. That's okay. Let me Google that for you, which I'm glad to do. I am glad to do it. Yeah, okay, the other one that's still out there, works great, is, let me make sure I'm not lying. So BART, B-A-R-T-P-E, still seems to be out there and alive. Most of the time, though, like for anti-malware, most of the anti-malware tools have a way, you go to their site and they have a download a live tool. Because you don't only want a copy of Windows, you want a copy of the anti-malware on there as well. And you can do all this with a tool called DISM. You can play with that all day long. But usually I'm going to go to an anti-malware website and find their live CD. They say live CD, but it's usually just going to be a thumb drive. It's usually just going to be an ISO file. You download, you take Rufus, You take that ISO, you throw it into a thumb drive. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can take an ISO even just in Windows. God, it's been a while since I've done that. I'm going to bring this thing down. I'm sitting here playing with this stuff, and I'm streaming on this same system, and I'm going to knock it down, and Scott Jernigan's going to start typing things. Mike's not here right now. Yeah, you still can do that. Here we go. God, it's been a while since I've done this. So these are just some files I have on here. These are ISO files that I downloaded. These are Windows I downloaded from Microsoft. If I right-click on there, I can burn an image. And when it says burn, you think that means CDs, but it'll do it on a thumb drive as well. All right. Play with it. I've given you multiple ways to do that. See, Plasman, you crack me up because I know you know a lot, but then you ask things that to me are simple, and that's fine. That makes you what I call a Swiss cheeser. A lot of knowledge, a lot of holes. Welcome. That's why you're here, man. I love your questions. Tanner Schmidt got through the first side of the A+, and now you're studying up. Good man. Oh, that's right. Andrew Mejia. Yeah, we did today. We just got out the AWS Certified Database course. That was like the last thing we did before the corona hit. Where do you go? There we go. Well, Nigel, I'll tell you what. How much time we got left? We got 30 minutes left? Hey, Nigel, how about a free book? All right, so let's have a competition. Let's have a little fun. I'm going to give away a book right now. Let's have a little competition. So I'm going to have to scroll down. All right, you guys want to have a competition? Okay, for those of you guys who don't know how to do it, I'm going to ask some arbitrary question. And the first person who types something in that has the right answer becomes the winner. Now, here's the deal on books. We can't ship books anywhere, all right? Honestly, if you're not in the United States or Canada, the shipping cost becomes so obnoxious that we can't even get you a book. The shipping costs are 100 times more than the book itself. So what we do instead is get you an ebook. So all of my books are also in standard Kindle ebook format, and they would come from Amazon.com. So as long as you guys understand, we will have a competition to that effect. Now, I'm going to be more unfair. What did we do that was fun today? Okay. I got to come up with a question. So, you guys got to be ready. Here we go. And these questions aren't fair. If you're looking for fairness, well, don't get an IT, okay? These questions are arbitrary and intentionally a little tricky. And sometimes it doesn't even have anything to do with what we're talking about. Because we didn't really talk about too much of a super technical today, or at least something that I can say is, an absolute. So, question. Ooh, this one's going to be hard. This relates to what we were talking about on Friday. And I didn't give you the answer on Friday. So open up a web browser, kids, because you're going to need it. You ready? Getting ready to do some searches. All right, DHCP v6 uses 2 ports. What are the 2 port numbers for DHCP v6? The first person who types them both in You have to type them both in. Wins a free book. You ready? Go. DHCP version 6, DHCP v6 needs 2 port numbers. What are the... Oh, Tolowit. Come on, Tolowit. You're such a ringer, man. Okay, you guys are all right. Good Googling there. Hey, nothing wrong with the Googling. Tolowit, you ringer. All right, you know what I'm going to do? Where you at, Nigel? Ah, he's not in there. I am. Tolowit, if you don't mind, brother, you're such a consistent winner. I'm gonna give it away to somebody else. All right, here we go. The winners are Pisse in. Hey, Miss Pisse, good to see you. Everybody's these little tiny icons, and I'm always afraid, to get the gender wrong. So Pisse, you win a Network Plus book. And because I am an unfair person, all right, Nigel. All right, here, I'm going to give Nigel a book too. All right, Nigel, you win a book. And because I'm being arbitrary to Nigel, I got to be arbitrary to somebody else. I'm just going to look. Let me scroll a little bit. I'm just going to pick somebody else who at least got the answer right. And I'm going to pick, not looking at names. I am not looking at names. I am not looking at names. Network Mage. All right, so we're giving away 3 books today. All right, so Pisse, Nigel, Network Mage, here's what you guys got to do to get your books. And I'll give away more books this week. I'm giving away a lot of books this week. So what you guys got to do is you have to contact Kathy Yale. That is Kathy Y at totalsem.com. Here, I'm going to, Scott, will you type that in the chat for everybody? Here, I'll type it in. So you guys have to send an email to KathyY at totalsem.com and just let them know that you guys are the winners. If you didn't win, number 1, it isn't fair. And number 2, stick around. I'm not going to give anything more away today, but I promise Friday for sure. And you know what? Because I've never done that. I've never arbitrarily given a person a book before. And now I feel bad, and now I feel like I have to give away more books because I can afford it. Woohoo! All right, so let me write down the winners. Network Mage, we don't have a CYSA book, man. No, I did not say that, Andre. Pisse's giving away her book. All right, man, I'm trying to give them away. Well, first of all, Pisse and Tolowit, thank you very much for giving away books. I appreciate that. Who else got in there? All right, who was second? Oh, Pisse was. All right, Sebastian Trusu. Sebastian, Trusu. You have won the 3rd Network Plus book, so it's going to be Nigel, Sebastian. I'm going to get these emails from my salespeople going, why are you giving these all away? Because I feel like it. Because I'm Mike Meyers, popular author. So it was Nigel, Sebastian, and who was the 3rd one? Network Mage. Wait, yeah, Network Mage. All right. Pisse, I don't remember you winning before. All right. All right, so congratulations to Sebastian Trusu, Nigel, and Network Mage. We're going to do it again, guys. As you can see, we don't get that many people showing up. So, if you don't win one time, just come back again. You're going to win something. It's always easy. All right. Okay, guys, so we got about... Yeah, Ariacom, I'm just trying to be arbitrary here. This is completely, it's like random. It's like picking up dice. All right, if you don't win this time, like I said, come on back. We'll get you next time. I'm curious what you want to talk about with volume shadow copy. And I guess I don't want to get into it too terribly much because volume shadow copy, at least as we understand, is probably going away. But okay, you guys are all negotiating with me. Can I get this? No, this stuff's arbitrary. Okay, so I think we've got, are there any more questions for the day? Did anything roll in while we were talking? Sebastian, did you ask a question on backups again? So a full backup deletes the archive bit, and a incremental backup deletes the archive bit. All the other types of backups, copy backup, differential, do not wipe the archive. Terrence Tech, Mike, did you see my man? How am I missing these questions? Robert R., do you give away practice exams? I do give away practice exams. In fact, Wednesday, day after tomorrow, that's probably all we'll give away our practice exams. It's actually a lot easier for me to give away practice exams than books. Now hang on, Scott's telling me I missed a question. Terrence Tech, Mike, did you see my question on UTM, like Unified Threat Management? My laptop locked up and I had to reboot. No, sorry, I did not see that. So UTM means Unified Threat Management to me, so I'm not sure how a laptop would have to play with that. So we still got time. Type it in. What do you mean by UTM? Andy, I did get... Dave just answered it. I'm going to skip it then. Yeah, Andy, there was a problem with the question that I had to skip it. I don't remember what it was. I definitely remember reading your question. Andy, just go ahead and send it again, will you, bud? Sorry, Andy STL, just resend the exact same email. Let me look at it again. There was probably something about it I didn't like, and that's why I skip it. Yeah, again, guys, do keep in mind, I get 400 emails a day, so sometimes I'm a little slow on the catching them. And Andy, you're doing the exact right thing. Yell at me and make sure I'm on it. All right, so somebody who's... See, a lot of times you got to be careful because you send me an email and I don't know who it is on there. But here is a person. I will say this person's a female, not that it matters. And this person's just saying they ask me lots of questions. Well, that's what I'm here for. Ask all the questions you want. You're always welcome. I might tease you a little bit sometimes. Like, you turn into C. Plasman 2009 or Tolowit, who was kind of quiet today. I'm not sure what's wrong with him. I might tease you a little bit, but no, this is why I'm here. The reason I'm here is to ask questions. You cannot ask a stupid question in here. You might get a little ribbing, but I'm always glad to answer any question you might have. Okay, Tom Jeffrey, was Vista as bad as people made out? No, Vista was pretty good. The drivers in Vista stunk. Carter G. Brown's added me on Steam, Buffalo Brown. I'll be watching for you, amigo. There you are, Dole. Oh, those were your... God, I'm getting confused. Who's what? Yeah, sorry, man. I take it back. Mike, first, why does Windows keep deleting the system restore point at this time? I could not copy them off or Windows keeps them. Yeah, they've got that locked down. This is a big problem. In fact, CompTIA ran into this because they were asking some restore point questions on the A+, on the new A+, that were just questionable because Windows 10 has gone through some major changes since it's come out. And it really makes it a challenge. I mean, because, Windows 10's been out, what now, 6 years? And it really makes it a bit of a challenge. Dr. Quinn, I have not tried. When you say Windows deletes the system restore point, do you mean it erases it from the restore point when you bring up the tool, or you actually look in the file? I could not. That's right. You could not copy them off where Windows keeps them. Also, you got to keep in mind which ones are we talking about. You've got multiple restore points that are being installed. I can't. Again, it's frustrating right now. I can't keep up with where Windows 10 is putting all this stuff these days. The best place I can tell you is just do make a recovery disk. Make sure you got a big thumb drive, like an 8 gigger or even 16, and it will put in your latest restore point when you make the recovery disk. But Dr. Quinn, the answer is I don't know why Microsoft changes this stuff. The whole concept of system restore points is changing now. It's really challenging. Even disk management is starting to get weird. So, yeah, it's tough. Peter Hunt, I work at a company where my main use Cisco for networking, but I'm only an intern. I did the A+ earlier this year. Would you recommend? Peter Hunt, if you can do the Net Plus, do it. I think that when you take the Net Plus and then you go into a Microsoft or a Cisco or a CWSP or whatever certification, CWNP or whatever you're thinking about, the vendor neutral aspect of Net Plus will serve you because you don't get turned into a groupie for Cisco or Microsoft or whatever it is. So yeah, if you can, do it. I mean, if you're really desperate, you can definitely jump from A+ to CCNA, ICND1 easily enough. But man, I always tell everybody, the Network Plus is the most important certification you'll never need in terms of getting you a job. You really need it in terms of what it teaches you. Andrew DeGoy, no such thing as stupid questions, just stupid answers. And I definitely give stupid answers sometimes. Is UTM better than a dedicated network security device? Well, UTM doesn't necessarily mean a non-dedicated device, right? I mean, UTM, when it's done, first of all, it's almost certainly going to be an enterprise level thing where you have lots of different devices. I would say there is. So really, I guess what you're asking, Terrence Tech, we're talking about an individual, edge device kind of a thing for a single entry into the network. Yeah, but those boxes, I would consider them, some of these more advanced Barracuda boxes, for example, are kind of UTM in a box. So I'm not sure I would look at those as separate things. Brendan S., there he is. Hey, Mike, do hours in IT jobs become more steady as you rise through the ranks? Yeah, they do, Brendan, in general. I mean, the entry level, nobody likes working from midnight till 8, right? I'm sorry, I was looking at Dave Rush's answer. Single box solution to provide multiple security services. UTMs at the minimum should have some converged security like network. Yeah, well, Dave, I'm kind of adding on to what you're saying here. To me, a UTM would be all of those converged services, right? And most single box solutions provide multiple security services. We're splitting hairs there. We're saying the same thing. Carter G. Brown, do you know anything about the new 2004 Windows Update? I do have it installed. I don't think did I put it on all? I think at this point you kind of have to have it. It's been out now for a few weeks. 2004 Windows, I got a BSOD when I updated it. I realized I didn't have my chipset drivers installed. Would that be a fix? Almost certainly. Almost certainly. Crazy schedules are normal in starting positions. All right. Okay, guys, last chance. Here we go. I got 10 more minutes. Nice try. No cigars back, but it looks like you've got some conversation going there. All right. Guys, it looks like the questions have wound down, so I am going to call it right here. Scott's not yelling at me on Teams or anything, so I think I'm doing okay. Oh, Terrence Tech, I now understand what you were saying. Did you see my question on UTM? You were watching on the laptop and it literally rebooted. Okay, I think we got that answered though. Oh goodness, now you guys are going to throw them in real quick? All right. Sure, that's what I'm here for. Tolowit, you were robbed, man. Honestly, Tolowit, that's why we submit bills, And if they refuse to pay, take them to a small claims court. Here in Texas, it's $45 to take somebody to court. Andrew, you bought a color laser printer with a problem. Why did you buy a printer with a problem? I'm kidding. It leaves stripes on the first few prints. After that, it works fine. I'm going to try if I can fix it. Any suggestions? Yes. What I'm assuming, Andre, is that the stripes are going to be of the same color every time. You've got some pooch toner cartridges, and I hate to tell you this, you're probably going to have to buy new cartridges. What you can do, though, is open the cartridge up, and you get that photosensitive drum, that color. It's usually blue or green. It's kind of pretty. Just spin that with your fingers a few times. A lot of times if you got like a little piece of tape or a label or cat hair or something like that, those can cause those smudges to take place. But no, you say it goes away after a while. No, forget that. That wouldn't be the right answer. You've got a very slow leak in one or two of your cartridges, and once the printer gets going, the leak is too slow to cause the problem, but after it sits for a while, it gets to leak up, you get a new streak. I would be definitely checking the cartridges. Carter G. Brown, when do you usually play games? I'm not playing too much at all these days, Carter, but my Steam is always up, so you can just say hello to me. It's not on here, it's on my big machine upstairs. So you're always welcome to at least say hello. But yeah, Carter, just give it a try. Should we always download the latest chipsets for motherboards, or is that a case of it ain't broke, don't fix it? That's a case of it ain't broke, don't fix it. But usually something big has to happen, like your situation, Brenda, where a new operating system comes in. That would be a clue to look at those types of things. The other time I would look for something like that is, like I use a lot of Asus motherboards. I just like them. And I go to the Asus site and check stuff out. No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In fact, there's times where you can actually cause trouble by updating drivers. I remember when Windows 10 first came out, it was notorious for trashing drivers. I had an old Windows 8 system that I updated to 10 and it just didn't work. I mean, it didn't work. Windows 10 didn't run on that particular chipset. Okay. That was supposed to be a dab. Okay. Yeah, when the old guys start doing that, it's time to stop. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. This is your Uncle Mike signing off. I will see you all Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I will try to get a hold of Network Chuck today. We'll see if he's available. I don't have any easy way to contact him. I'll try to figure that out. And we will, I promise, a good talk on volume shadow copy on Wednesday. I believe that was for Dr. Quinn, and it shall be done. So until then, I'm out of the door here, folks. This is your Uncle Mike saying good night. Good night.